to go till 10 o'clock with Andrew and then over to Beijing, a little bit past 10.
About 20 minutes. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Lillis. I'm a foreign legal counselor here at Lehman, Lillis-1, and I'm going to give a presentation centered on the China business structures for coming and setting up business in China. So to go by this really quite quickly, the first thing you do when you go to come here if you're a businessman, typical things: passport, visa, air tickets, itinerary. Be very careful about the visa in particular, because there's been several situations where people have arrived in Shanghai Beijing airport and been refused entry because they do not have the right documentation. So the first step is to get the proper documentation to get it. Inoculations, don't worry about it unless you're in very southwest China, Yunnan, otherwise there's nothing to worry about. Medication, bring your medication from home, because obviously its availability in China is a little bit more difficult. So, the first thing you have to think about when you come to China is what do you want to do? Because depending on what you do, you'll have to choose one of the different business structures. So do you want to manufacture, sell, just promote your business, provide services, or just have a China office for show? So a lot of businesses, they like the idea of having a Beijing desk, a Shanghai desk. They mightn't want to really do much here except have a presence. So do you have big plans or do you have small plans? Because this is going to dictate the kind of corporate structure you decide to have in the future. Every year, China publishes something called the Foreign Investment Catalog, which specifies every possible industry you can think of and divides those industries into prohibited, restricted, and encouragement areas of investment. The benefits for being in the encouraged category is that you can have a 100% foreign-owned enterprise. For being in the restricted category, there's more restrictions. For example, you may need to have a Chinese business partner, or there may be certain registered capital restrictions as well. If you're in the prohibited sector, you cannot invest in China. Areas such as compulsory education, that is from first grade through grade 10, media, arms manufacturing, certain kind of radioactive mining. These sort of areas you cannot invest in at all. Generally speaking, these are the 5 types of means for setting up in China. It's a little bit skewed here, unfortunately. There's a representative office, equity joint venture, cooperative joint venture, wholly foreign-owned enterprise, and foreign-invested commercial enterprise. These are all terms of art in China in specific Chinese legislation. They all have different requirements, and you really have to know what you're doing before you decide which one you want. So we're going to go through them individually to give you a better idea of which they are and which businesses should choose which business model.
I have a question about the media. How is it restricted? Because there's one media TV station in southern part of China, Guangdong,
Right.
from the Star TV group.
Generally speaking, what can happen is you can enter into a management arrangement with a holding company, where a foreign company can arrange to manage a Chinese TV station or a Chinese newspaper, but not actually invest in it directly. So in terms of direct investment, it's prohibited. You can direct it, you can invest it indirectly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just to follow up, like even Shanghai Daily, I think, is basically managed by foreign concerns. The license is with the Shanghai government. Just that's an example. But we've done work with Berlusconi's group, which is Mondadori, and a whole bunch of different media operations, from Harvard Business Review down to everything you can think of in between. So they're entering into a prohibited area, but they find there are different ways around being able to not control, but being able to work with that prohibited area. So there's ways around it.
Yeah. The key is to have creative solutions to these kind of problems. So what a representative office does is basically a first step in launching in China. It's a legal term in China, representative office. It does not have legal personality, so it cannot be sued. It cannot directly do business here. It cannot sign contracts in China. It cannot be paid in China. So what can it do? Basically, it can promote, it can market, it can look into business opportunities, it can conduct meetings, it can promote itself, but it cannot directly do business. And the problem is, because it's by far the easiest way to come into China, many businesses set up with a representative office, which is a very narrow business scope, and try to do more. For example, conducting sales. If you get caught doing this can have big complications for the parent company back in your home country, because then you may be barred from doing business in China in the future. So it's very important, if you have a representative office, to really just do it for this very narrow business scope. So examples. Example 1. A small advertising company wants to establish a business presence in China in order to scope potential business opportunities. It may not necessarily want to do business here, it just wants to have a China desk, perhaps so it can look better on its business cards, or maybe with a view to doing business here in the future. Example 2. The Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau wants to set up a Chinese office to promote Chicago as a tourist destination to Chinese residents. It will not actually sell tickets, it will not book any space, but it will act as a meeting point for Chinese businesses and Chinese tourists to find out more about going to Chicago on business. It's a good business setup for the Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau because it's easy to set up, you don't need to station many people in China, and it really fulfills its purpose very well. It will not try to sell, it will not try to become a bigger enterprise. It fits perfectly what it wants to do. So this is the representative office. This is the most popular means for coming into China. But if you really want to do substantive business in China, you need to have a more complicated business structure, which may be a joint venture, a wholly foreign-owned enterprise, or a foreign-invested commercial enterprise. Now, traditionally, joint ventures were the main means of coming into China because government restrictions necessitated having a Chinese business partner, because they did not want foreigners to come in and 100% own businesses here and repatriate the profits abroad. So traditionally, up until even a few years ago, it was far and away the most popular kind of business structure in China. These days, there are not that many business areas left where you still need a Chinese partner. But just to run through here, it's sometimes required by law, not always. It enables you to get local expertise, to take advantage of local guanxi of your Chinese business partner. Guanxi, of course, means social capital, relations. You have to give up some control, though, which, of course, businesses don't like to give up control. Often, to establish an agreement is a long negotiating process because agreement has to be reached on every single area. It's not unusual for negotiations to go on for several years and just to collapse at the last minute because there's one area where the parties cannot agree on. Also, potential intellectual property issues. If you share your intellectual property rights or your specific knowledge with your Chinese business partner, there is always the risk that they will then take that knowledge, set up on them by themselves, leaving you with legal recourse, a very difficult legal process to try to reestablish the fact that you own the rights and they do not have the right to use them. The most important thing we advise as lawyers to our clients is due diligence when it comes to Chinese business partners. Often the Chinese business partner will go, maybe meet the American client in the United States, everything will look perfect, they'll know all about the business, it'll look like a very good relationship. When you look further and deeper into the Chinese business partner, though, you perform due diligence. From a financial point of view, the financial records may be in disarray, and it may seem that they are not as good as they said they were. And so really due diligence is by far the most important aspect to entering into a joint venture relationship with a Chinese company. Examples of some joint ventures. An American company wants to manufacture truck cranes in Shenyang. Shenyang is in Liaoning province, which is basically very close to Beijing. As this is a restricted area of investment, they must set up with a Chinese partner in order to get the requisite approval. So they may not want to have a Chinese business partner, but in this specific area, truck crane manufacturing, they need to have a Chinese business partner in order to set up in China.